a spiritual teacher and as well as how to follow a teacher. So if you have the book, it's on page number 151. We are going around page number 151. Yeah. So on the page number 151, actually the end of page number 150, there is a line which says, "Why is he the refuge and the field of merit? Because the outer and inner yoga of accomplishing the teacher contains the essence of what is to be realized through the generation and the perfection phases." So this quote basically talks about, and that is why all the sutras and tantras say he is the Buddha himself. So this quote is a reference to Guru Yoga practice. It talks about the generation stage and the perfection stage, which is a primary practice in the tantric, in the Vajrayana. So basically, the reason the Guru is regarded as the Buddha himself is because even though the Buddha Dharma is the Buddha Dharma that we receive is the complete version, which is the Vajrayana and Sutrayana, both are there. But in order to practice, we need someone to guide us and teach us. And even though Buddha Shakyamuni was the one who taught all of that, the first thing, but he is no longer here with us. So we don't have the good fortune to have met the Buddha, and the only person who could guide or open the doors towards liberation, towards complete enlightenment is the Guru, and Guru only. And so for that reason, the Guru is regarded as the, even though in reality, the Guru may or may not be a Buddha. The Guru may be a Bodhisattva. Your Guru may be an ordinary person or a Bodhisattva or a Shavaka or maybe a Buddha. So when it comes to the practice, when it comes to following the person whom you regard as your Guru, the reality doesn't matter at this moment. So whatever the reality is, it doesn't matter. And whether the Guru is a Buddha or not Buddha, that doesn't matter. Of course, before you take someone as your Guru, you have to be very careful, check and everything, right? I mentioned that many times. But once you take someone as your Guru, once you accept somebody as your Guru, from then onwards, it doesn't matter whether that person is actually a real Buddha or not a real Buddha. Because from then onwards, it's all about your faith. So if you have the faith that your Guru is a completely enlightened Buddha, then you will receive the same blessings as that of a Buddha. If you regard your Guru as a Bodhisattva, then you will receive the same blessing as that from a Bodhisattva. If you regard your Guru as an ordinary teacher, someone who has a lot of information, a lot of data, and he's sharing those data with you, and that is your regard. That is how you would regard your Guru as, then the blessing will be also like that. So if you look up to your Guru as someone, as a field of merit, or as a Buddha, you will receive similar kind of benefits and blessings. And if you look down upon your Guru and regard your Guru as inferior to you, then actually you will receive nothing. So this is from a Vajrayana perspective, especially from a Vajrayana perspective. So it depends the kind of blessing and the openings that you receive, spiritual awakenings that you would receive or achieve, relies solely on your own perspective, your own your own perspective and your own how you would regard your teacher as. So next we will go to the next quote. I will read the next quote. So it says, most fools take his portrait and meditate on that, but do not honor him while he is present in person. They claim to meditate on the natural state, but do not know the teacher's mind. What an affliction to practice at odds with the practice. With no devotion, to meet the teacher in the intermediate state would be miraculous. So the first line talks about the first two lines. Most fools take his portrait and meditate on that, but do not honor him while he is present in person. So this talks about, I don't know, it does happen with many teachers, of course, but also it happens with not just with teachers, but with our family members and the people, people within our community. When they're alive, we actually say negative things about them. We, backbite. We say a lot of negative things. We try to avoid them. We try to bring harm to them. But when someone dies, then we try to, even if it is somebody whom we dislike, whom we do not like, but when they die, we would visit their funerals. We would try to show sympathy. We will try to do all kinds of theatrics, all kinds of drama. So of course it's good to visit someone's when someone passes away. It's a nice gesture to visit their the resting site and to offer condolences to the family members, and all these are important. All these are good. Especially it is good for our social fabric. But it would be much better if we can respect the person when that person is yet alive. So in general, right? And this especially goes in the sense of a teacher, in the sense of a Dharma teacher, spiritual teacher. It's very important that when they are alive, when they are amongst us, it's important to be respectful to them. So respect, we, especially in the East, in Asian culture, in Eastern culture, when we talk about respect, we think of something like, standing up, bowing down. These are, this is what is the meaning of the respect, not necessarily following the instructions that were given, or like respecting that person's concerns, interest, what their thoughts are, etc. These we do not kind of think of as something should be respected. When we talk about respect, we always think about bowing down, standing up when they come, and that kind of more of a physical gesture. When we talk about respect, we usually think about physical gesture, and then speaking very slowly and trying to be very meekish, meek, like trying to appear meek, kind of like a very soft and weak in front of the teacher. That is the way we show our respect to the teacher. But that is actually not the right or appropriate way to show respect. So real respect doesn't necessarily mean you have to bow down. Bowing down and this kind of thing were considered as a respectful gesture. But if you do not follow the instructions, especially with teachers, if you do not follow their thoughts, if you do not follow their concerns, if you do not follow their ideas, instructions especially, then no matter how you physically, how much of a dramatic theater you present in front of the teacher, it doesn't really have much effect for two reasons. One, because it won't have much effect on you because you are not doing it genuinely. And for the teacher, it doesn't have any much effect because the teacher actually knows that you're just putting up a theatric. So for that reason, it is important to be genuinely when we talk about respecting the teacher, it's important to respect the teacher genuinely by respecting their thoughts, their concerns, their instructions, especially. So this is what it talks about. The first two lines talks about that. So it's important to respect the teacher when they're alive. So how do we respect the teacher when they're alive? You ask questions. With the teacher, you ask questions. You receive Dharma teachings, and then you practice them. Then you ask more questions, and then you keep on developing yourself with the teacher's instructions, etc., etc. That is the most appropriate way to respect the teacher. There is a quote, citation from Milarepa. So, Milarepa lives up in the caves. He doesn't have any belongings, anything. He's like to put it bluntly, he's like a beggar. He has nothing. So he's a very good singer. He's a very good poet. So he sang this song to his master, Marpa Lozawa, the translator. He says, I as I am a beggar, as I am a pauper, I am a beggar, I'm a poor person, I have nothing of physical aggregate or physical matter to offer you. But what I'm going to offer you is the offering of practice. So practicing what the teacher, practicing the instructions that were given by the teacher is the best, most appropriate offering that you can make to the teacher. So that way you are respecting your teacher. If you do that, then that is the most effective way to pay respect to your teacher. So the third line is that they claim to meditate on the natural state, but do not know the teacher's mind. So this can be a little bit misleading, especially in the English. Natural state, the teacher's mind, it doesn't make much sense. But I think the translation is trying to stay to the literal path as much as they can. So the first thing, natural state is the ultimate state. Basically, it means the ultimate truth or emptiness. So those who claim to have meditated on the ultimate truth or the most profound of the all phenomena, which is the emptiness. So they claim to have been meditating on the natural state, the emptiness, or the most profound of all the teachings, but has no idea whatsoever of the teacher's mind. So even though it says mind here, it actually leans more towards the intention of the teacher. So those who claim to have profound understanding of the emptiness, but at the same time does not know what the teacher has intended. So meaning understanding of emptiness is an intellectual thing. And the intention of the teacher is more of a experiential, is more of a emotional, as well as the intention is more of a emotional. It's related to our emotions. What we intend is we usually do something with the intent of bringing us joyfulness or bringing us this or that satisfaction. So it's usually related to our emotions. And understanding of emptiness, even though as profound as it may be, it is actually an intellectual um, uh, uh, um, attainment or intellectual grasping, intellectual comprehension. So those who claim to have reached a certain level of intellectual height of realizing or recognizing emptiness, seem to have no idea of what the emotion or the intention of the teacher is, which normally speaking, intention of a person is supposedly is less profound and can be easily recognized. Something as profound as the ultimate truth is really you need to develop, you need to practice a lot and develop insight into gaining. You need to develop wisdom in order to gain insight into the ultimate truth. So those people who, even though they claim to have insight into the ultimate truth, has no idea of something of a lesser, something that requires lesser training, which is the understanding of the teacher's intention. So what Pedro Rinpoche is saying here is basically that people have, because profound teachings such as emptiness, as well as Vajrayana, empowerment, etc., because these are considered high level of teachings, people just flock to that part and neglect the actual intent or intention of the teacher, which is basically bodhicitta. So therefore, neglecting the bodhicitta, neglecting the common ground of bodhicitta, and then running all the way, rushing all the way towards the profound teachings. So without setting, basically without setting the basic grounds, you are running, you're running to rushing towards. So instead, like it's like a plane without running on the without taxiing on the runway. The plane wants to fly right off like a helicopter, So usually, in order for a plane to fly, it needs to it needs to run on a very high speed on the runway, and then as they get the momentum, and then it slowly soars up in the sky. So a plane cannot soar up high up in the sky right away, just like that, unless like a helicopter, which is a different case. So usually a plane needs to run on the runway, and then it can fly off. But most of us, we try to just fly away, fly off, just like a bird, instead of running on the runway. So basically, this is what Pedro Rinpoche is talking about. It's most important to set the common grounds first, and then you can jump as high as you want. You can you can fly as high as you want. But for that, you need to set the common ground, set the ground first. So if you don't have that, then okay, the next line, which is with what an affliction to practice at odds with the practice. So if you claim to have understanding of emptiness, but then you do not know what the intention of your guru is, then you are actually, at odds with your own practices. So usually people who follow a certain guru, certain teacher for a certain amount of time are well aware of, even though you may not be able to, gather the minute details of what your teacher is thinking, but you have a general idea of what your teacher usually thinks or what would they say during a certain teaching, certain teaching. So like you would have that kind of an idea. If you follow a teacher for a certain period of time, then you will be able to gain a certain sort of understanding of what he's going to say. And if you do not have that idea, then it's usually you're not very familiar in following the teacher's instructions and practices. So the last line is that with no devotion to meet the teacher in the intermediate state would be miraculous. So basically, it's a reference to the point that normally in our culture, when someone passes away, when they're about to pass away, we usually, when we are aware that they're in their last, their dying bed, we usually put pictures of their gurus, their teachers, beside them, and then we will play mantras or some prayers so that their mind is attuned to the Dharma. So that when they pass away, they pass into in the intermediate state. They pass through the intermediate state with the positive mindset, with a spiritual mindset, with a virtuous mindset, and more importantly, because when you are dying, when you are into the dying state, when you are at your deathbed, when you are going through the dying stages, the stages of death, you are aware of your guru's presence, and so for that, because of that, when you go through the intermediate state after passing from this life to the afterlife, you are not alone. You have nothing to be scared of because your guru is with you, etc. But for that thing to happen, for this thing, for your guru to be with you, for you not to be alone, and your guru to give you protection and all that, you need to have faith in your guru when your guru is alive and when you are alive. So it doesn't matter whether the guru is near you or far away, but it's important to have faith, devotion in the guru when you are alive. So if you are not able to make the connection when the guru, when you are alive and when the guru is there, then at the time of death, somebody puts a picture of the guru by your bedside, and all of a sudden the guru is there to spring action and spring into action and help you get you out of all these things. That's kind of believing into something. It's like believing in a miracle. So so for that reason, in order to it's not something that we cannot like rule out. It may happen, but if that happens, then it's a miracle indeed. You have no practice, you have no devotion, you have no faith in the guru when you are alive. But at the time of death, somebody puts a picture of guru or Buddha beside your bed, and just because of that picture, all the problems are solved. It's a very beautiful story that we like to believe in. But if you analyze that story, you can see that how fantasizing that story is. Okay, so this concludes today's session. If you have questions, please welcome to ask.
There's a question, Rinpoche.
Okay, please.
Straight to Rinpoche. This question is related to the last verse, is the opposite of what is in the last verse. When, for example, a practitioner only practice chanting the Amitabha Buddha's name, but does not follow a dedicated guru, when passing away, there's a guru who could help her, guide her through the bardo. Would it actually help her recognize that as a guru, or would it benefit her at all in this case?
Yeah, it's a that's a very good question. It's a very good question, and so thank you for asking the question, whoever you are. So we are talking about, because we are talking about guru devotion and how to follow a teacher, and so because we are talking about this, we are covering that context. That's why we talk about, if you have a guru but do not follow them properly, with no devotion when they're alive and when you are alive, and all of a sudden when you die, you hope the guru to come and help you. That's not going to happen, right? It is in this context. But in general, there are many people who do not have a specific guru. Many people. Most of us who consider ourselves as Buddhist, we do believe in the Buddha. And normally when we talk about Buddha, the Buddha we think about is usually Buddha Shakyamuni, and sometimes Amitabha, certainly, and then Avalokiteshvara or Goddess Tara, etc. So we have those deities that we consider as our guru, our savior, our father, our mother, whatever. So whenever we have some trouble, whenever we need spiritual solace, we seek that from them. So for those of us who do not have a specific guru, it is certainly worthwhile. It's certainly very important to have faith in a particular deity, such as Amitabha, Buddha Shakyamuni, whichever that is. So, it's for many people, it's very difficult to believe in a human being. And for some people, it's very difficult to have faith, trust, and respect another human being. And if that is the case, it's that this is possible, because when you see so much of tragedy, so much of tragic events in your life, and so much of um, horrible things happen, man-made horrible things happen in your life, it's reasonable to lose faith in humanity or human beings in general. And in such cases, it's worthwhile to believe in a deity such as Amitabha or Tara or etc., and then have faith in that. So if you have faith in the Buddha Shakyamuni or any of the deities, then so you have, there are thousands of Buddhas, but we are usually close with one or two Buddhas, right? One or two Buddhas, one or two deities will be your main practice, main deity. And those practice, it's important to have those kind of practice. And for example, for a lot of Vietnamese, Amitabha is the principal deity to which you pray. So for that reason, when you do pray to the Amitabha Buddha, when you have affinity to the Amitabha Buddha, and at the time of death, when you are able to glance at the image of the Amitabha Buddha, and after you die, people pray for you with the Amitabha mantra and Amitabha prayers, it will be very helpful, certainly. It will be very effective in helping you guide through the lonely corridors of intermediate state of Pardo. So basically what I'm saying is, if you do not have a specific guru, but if you believe in the Buddha, such as Buddha Shakyamuni or Amitabha Buddha, that is enough to have a proper journey towards the afterlife. Next.
Next question. Prostrate to Rinpoche. If a student can catch up with the teacher's real intention because of her ability or her negative karma or something like that, what would Rinpoche recommend or suggest her to do or practice in order to follow her teacher's intention? Thank you, Rinpoche.
Oh yeah, thank you. That's also a very good question. So this is very common in spiritual practices, that you're not able to, in the beginning, you're able to gain much momentum and develop further, and then after a certain point, you plateau, like you kind of like there is no more progress after a certain point. And this is actually very common in spiritual practices, and especially as regard to your question, like not recognizing your gurus, intention, or your teacher's intention, or not being able to follow the instructions properly, etc., etc. And that is the reason behind that is because of our negative karma and accumulation of a negative karma. Our negative karma, when we commit a negative karma, physically we are incapable. Our brain is incapable. Our body is incapable of. Doing prostrations, doing circumambulation, etc. Our because of our negative karma that we have committed, we are not able to recite the mantras properly. And because of the negative karma, negative actions that we have committed, we are not able to, our brain is not able to develop fully to contain, to comprehend the meaning of the the teaching, the instruction, etc. properly. And because of that, because our brains are not able to expand to its fullest form, our mind is not capable, our brains are not capable, and our mind is not capable of comprehending the profound teachings. And when these things happen, the solution there is to do more purification and accumulation. So we need to focus more on that's why in most practices, teachers always tell, say, do the wondo, right? To the preliminary practices. And if you look at Milarepa's case, he the story of Milarepa where he built the building 3 times, etc. All this. So you don't see Milarepa doing wondo in the conventional sense, but you see him building the house and destroying it and building it up and all that thing without losing any sense of devotion and proper motivation. And that is his wondo. So wondo can be different for different people, can be. If the guru is an enlightened being and can guide the student accordingly, then the guru may give different wondo practices for different students. But in general, it's all about, because we have very, very thick imprints, very, very thick negative imprints from our previous lives, because thick negative imprints from our previous lives. So we need to remove those things. We need to eradicate eliminate the negative imprints that we have accumulated from timeless lifetimes in the past. So basically, making mandala offerings, making prostrations, reciting the 100-syllable mantra, and then with strong devotion to your guru, combined with strong devotion to your guru, prostration, mandala offerings, and recitation of these 100-syllable mantras, and doing circumambulation, all these, all different kind of purification rituals combined with strong guru devotion is the proper way to get closer, to gain proximity towards your guru and guru's intentions, and being able to follow the instructions properly.
More question, Rinpoche.
No more questions, right?
One more question.
Okay.
Could you take this question, or we can stop?
Okay. Just yeah.
Okay.
You can ask.
Okay, Rinpoche, I would like to ask you this question. At home or hospital condition, the body cannot be kept for a long time, and we must move to a morgue. So is there any effect on the consciousness of the dead person, even though it has been prayed for by relatives? Thank you, Rinpoche.
So let me repeat the question. So if in a hospital or when you have to move the body quickly, then even if we do prayers, will it help or not? Will it be effective or not? Is that the question?
That is the question. That's right, Rinpoche.
Okay. So most people, generally, if you're not a practitioner, if you're not a serious practitioner, normally when you pass away, you usually the consciousness does not necessarily linger within the corpse or within the body for too long. But if you are a practitioner, usually people who are considered to be practitioner, then when they are actually declared clinically dead, even though the hospital says they are dead, they still, even though they may not be what we call breathing, they don't have the coarser level of breathing, they have a subtle breathing there. And even though we cannot feel the breath from their nose or the mouth, if you look at their the composure of the body, it looks complete. It looks exactly like they are alive, just like they're sleeping, even after weeks and weeks. So the answer to your question is, if the person is still, so let's say the person is a great practitioner and the consciousness is still there in the body, then that body is actually not a real corpse, right? A corpse is when the person dies and the consciousness leaves, that's a corpse. So for that, in such cases, if you move the body, it will affect the person who died, in the sense that it will, if usually for a serious practitioner, they usually, because all the external senses, ear, nose, all these things, they were all closed. And this is the only thing that is open is the sixth sense, the mind or the chitta, sim. And so for that reason, at that time, it's the perfect time to meditate. So if you move the body at that time, if you if you move the body of someone who is considered to be a serious practitioner, then it can affect the person, the meditation, because the consciousness does need a place to reside. And so when you move the place that the consciousness is residing, then the consciousness would also have to move to another place, which is usually another body. And so for that reason, it will disrupt the meditation. In general, if the person is no longer there in the corpse, in the body, then there is nothing much to take effect. Another thing is, for the mind or for the chitta, for the consciousness to stay within the body, one does not necessarily have to be a great practitioner. If you are a very, very stingy person, if you are a very clingy person, if you are attached to something or someone and you die, then at the time of death, the consciousness will not leave. The consciousness will still remain there, because you have a strong sense of attachment. And there are many stories like that, actually. Yeah, one story I would like to share. That is happened during the time of the Rinpoche, which is the teacher of His Holiness. So what happened was that one monk passed away, right? And normally he's considered to be very 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 docile, very humble, and humble. And so when he passed away, he kind of his body didn't decay, and his body remained in what is usually considered to be post-death meditation stage. So it seems like he's in a meditation stage, right? And then at that time, everyone around him thought that, because he usually seems to be a very nice monk, he usually appears to be a very nice monk, they all thought that he's now in a very profound meditative state. But then the Trijang Rinpoche, which is the junior teacher of His Holiness, somehow he was passing by, and he found out that that person is actually not in a meditative state. He's dead, right? He's declared clinically dead, but his consciousness is still within the body. But the consciousness is not actually meditating, but it's actually attached to something. So he was at that time, anyway, I don't know whether you are familiar with Tibetan butter tea or not. So Tibetan butter tea, you know, it's a Tibetan, it's a type of tea that we drink in Tibet. So he was actually attached to the Tibetan butter tea, and because of the people are making offerings of tea or something around him when he died. So he has many students. So he was attached to the tea, and his consciousness couldn't leave. His consciousness couldn't leave the body. He's not doing any meditation. He is just attached to the tea. And then Khyentse Rinpoche, His Holiness junior teacher, sought out a way, and he said he asked some of the some of the monks that is taking care of the monk before he died. So he told them to tell him, whisper in his ear, you know, in the afterlife, the tea is much more better, you know. So if you go to the next life, afterlife, the tea is much more tastier there. So they kept saying that to him. And then that very moment, he died. So when people stay in a meditative state for a long time, they were in a they were in the so-called, when the consciousness stays within the body even after death, the moment they leave, there will be blood coming from the nose, and then from the genitalia, there will be liquid coming from the male or the female organs that will come out. So of course, so the moment he was told that there's much better tea in the afterworld, and it's like nose started to bleed, and then he died. Oh yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
No,
Rinpoche.
yeah, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for your time. Now we will do the dedication. Gewan di nyodo na ama sangye njogyara nenjowa jigyama le. Ge ye zala ngeba